What do children know that adults have forgotten? Children seem to be more confident, more courageous. They enjoy life far more intensely than adults do. In fact, I know a number of adults who spend a large part of their life trying to return to the type of life they had as children. Well, in today's Build a Business, Not a Job podcast, I'm going to have a chat with Mark Creedon, and we're going to learn some lessons from our grandchildren. Now, even though they're called Build a Business, Not a Job, and they aim in particular at business owners, professionals, people who want to go into business, these have become very, very popular. I can see them from the downloads that we get on iTunes and Stitcher because they've got general interest. So whether you're a property investor, you want to succeed in other areas of your life, today's show is particularly for you because you're going to learn, you're probably going to relearn some lessons that you've forgotten along the way about success in all areas of your life. So welcome to today's episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, where Mark and I teach you some lessons from our children, well, actually from our grandchildren, because our children have grown up.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's most trusted property commentator who has once again been voted Australia's leading property investment advisor. That's the fifth time he's won a similar award in the last 7 years.
As adults, we often forget that at one point in life, we saw the world and the people around us in a much different light. We saw the world through a child's eyes. And as we grew up, as we matured, we allowed life and the rules that we were given to restrict some of the greatest instincts we had as children. Instead of never taking no for an answer, waiting for permission, or even embracing our wildest dreams, we tend to fall into a strict regime we believe that's going to keep us safe, it's going to give us success. Maybe that's not true. Sometimes it's important to remember that to be truly effective, to become successful business people, entrepreneurs, leaders, maybe our childhood antics could do us some good. In fact, it turns out that children can teach us a lot about success in business and in life. And only a couple of days ago, I was actually having a chat with Mark Creedon, founder of Business Accelerator Mastermind, and my business partner, and happens to be also my business coach. And he was telling me some of the lessons he learned from his 6-year-old grandson. So I thought we'd, as grandparents, share with you some of our thoughts and lessons that we've learned over the years from children. So welcome, Mark.
Hello, Michael. Good to be here.
Well, you brought up this great idea, and then I had a look too. I'm a little bit ahead of you with my number of grandchildren, but I've had a head start because I'm older than you. So let's have a chat about some of the lessons that Izzy taught you.
Yeah, it was interesting topic, Michael, and ringing his eye and just putting a bunch of questions to him. I was not sure what the answers would be, but as you know, they came out to be really interesting. I guess the first thing that I got in the conversation with him was about the importance of budgeting. And I said to him, what would you do now if you suddenly had $100? Because I figured $100 would be a lot of money to him. And he said to me, if I had $100, I would save half for the future, but then I'd also want to spend half on something that's for me. So he was very clear about that he had a plan in place for what he'd do with that $100.
That's really interesting to come from a 6-year-old. So obviously he's had some good mentors in your daughter Sam and her husband Leroy, because we are mentors to our children. And just like with business people, the message we give to our staff, our team members, our suppliers, our customers is also important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Sam and Leroy run the envelope method, which is similar to the jar method that you and I have discussed lots of times. So yeah, it's important to keep that mentorship going, and I guess to start it at such a young age as well, Michael.
Well, one of the lessons I've learned from my grandkids is that kids have got no fear. Not taking a first step is one of the most common reasons many people in life remain unhappy and frustrated. Not taking the first step in setting up your own business, or buying that first investment property, or even in personal relationships as well, asking somebody out. We're too hesitant to do things that are outside our comfort zone because we fear failure. But Mark, children aren't that way. They're enthusiastic. They're like doing new things. They take leaps without hesitation. And that's why I think we, as grown-ups, need to watch them, learn from them. There's something fascinating about how kids take risks and they learn from them. Sometimes they get hurt, but they seem to love the experience. So in business, many of us are stuck in the wrong job, want to get out, want to start our own businesses, but we're afraid to do so. We're afraid of the unknown. You don't need to know it all before you take a leap. That's one of the challenges that people have, isn't it, Mark? They think they've got to get it all right before they move to the next level.
Yeah, they do. I always think of the quote from General Colin Powell, Michael, where he talks about the 50-70 rule, where he says if you get something to between 50 and 70% certainty, you should jump into it. And if you wait till you get to 70% and above, you've waited too long. I figure if he uses that philosophy in sending people into war, it's probably not a bad philosophy we should use in business as well.
Good one. Okay, another lesson from Isaiah.
Well, the next thing I spoke to Izzy is I asked him, when he grew up, what would he like to do? And his answer was that he'd like to be a vet because he really wanted to help animals. He loves animals. He loves working with animals. He likes being around animals. Interestingly, Michael, he said that he'd like to be a vet that doesn't do operations because he doesn't like to see the inside. But I think that the thing I got from that is the importance of following your passion and really understanding why you do what you do. I mean, that should be a fundamental concept that we have in life, in business, in our investment decisions. We should understand what's motivating us, why it is that we're doing what we're doing, and really following that passion. What was next for you with your grandkids?
Well, I love their curiosity. Children are driven by curiosity. They learn because they're curious, especially at those early ages where they want to discover new things and they come across new things every day. They're a sponge, absorbing new experiences, taking them on, exercising their new skills, learning how to use their new knowledge. They know very little when they're born. I mean, we don't know anything about anything really, but then they start to pick up and they start to transform, and curiosity gets them to explore the world. I think in our personal lives, Mark, I think in our professional lives, it's common that we sort of get stuck in our own ways, doing the same thing, doing it over and over again, because we're living in our comfort zone, losing our sense of curiosity. I think business owners, investors, entrepreneurs should remember that it's curiosity that's going to drive you to new experiences, take you to new places, keep you on the move. Just like our kids, as they grow up, they meet amazing people, they do amazing things because they're curious. Never forget to be curious, Mark.
Michael, you can see how these are so closely linked, aren't they? So we talk about an absence of fear, but we talk about maintaining curiosity. And I think one of the things that stops us being curious is that fear element. We're afraid of stepping out of the comfort zone. We're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of failure. We're often afraid of success. So I think they're just great lessons.
That's an interesting concept, Mark, because a lot of people say, no, that's not true. I'm not afraid of success. But we've often spoken about people's wealth operating systems, just the way you think, that actually hold you back and stops you taking the next step. Mark, I see that a lot in people who actually, when they get to a level in their business, they sabotage themselves. They seem to just not want to get to the next level. And they do want to get to the next level, but they're held back by their inner thoughts, their inner beliefs. It's that old story that if you took all the money in the world and distributed it evenly, it'd be back in the same proportions again. Some people go broke and some entrepreneurs, businesses fail, yet they make it again while other people don't. So really a lot of it has to do with that real estate in between your ears, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we say business is a game of inches, and the most important inches are the 6 between your left ear and your right ear. So,
yes.
Yeah, very, very much so. Michael, the other thing that I got in speaking with Isaiah is the importance of play. So I said to him, what do you think grown up should do other than work? We spoke about the fact that mummy and daddy work, and what else should they do? And he said to me they should play. And it prompted me to sort of look into a bit of a background on it. And there's been some recent research out of the psychiatry unit at Johns Hopkins University that compared play to oxygen. And the reason it compared play to oxygen was because it said, like oxygen, play is everywhere. It's actually available to us. And if we breathe it in, we will actually enjoy our lives. Well, we'll live, we'll survive if we actually play. There's a whole bunch of neuropsychology behind it as well.
Sure.
So we know that if we play, it feeds dopamine into a whole bunch of areas of the brain. Neurons activate in what's called the ventral tegmental area of the brain, but they run to all parts of the brain. So literally playing makes us feel good all over, Michael.
It does, just like chocolate. And I think kids like chocolate. Hey, I haven't got that on my list, Mark, but maybe I should put it on my list. I think the reason kids like to play is also because they don't take themselves too seriously. With the little experience, skills and knowledge in the world, you never see kids worrying too much about things. They laugh, they enjoy the little moments of everyday life without losing their sense of humour. There's nothing purer. We understand it at our age now, Mark, the beauty of seeing a child, your grandchild, smiling, happy, giggling, making new friends, experiencing something new. Now, I know sometimes they embarrass themselves, sometimes they embarrass me in public. They often have a bad day, but they don't care. They just move on. They just go back to what makes them happy. Now, I know on the other hand, adults, they do the opposite. They worry. They worry about what people are going to think. They overanalyze the situation. In fact, when you're relaxing and keeping your sense of humour, when you're enjoying life, you're going to actually get much further in all areas of your life. So I guess the lesson, Mark, is don't take yourself so seriously, because if you do, you're not going to enjoy the journey and you're not going to achieve what you want.
Yeah, that's very true. You're talking about the kids embarrassing themselves or embarrassing us. I remember when my children were teenagers and they used to say to me, "Oh, Dad, you're embarrassing me." And my stock standard answer was that's just revenge for all the times that you embarrassed me.
Yes. Now, I've forgotten about that, but I do remember being embarrassed by my parents. You're right, yeah. Funny how things change as you become a grandparent.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. The other thing I love about kids, and I remember it with my kids. It's funny, Michael, because when it was my kids doing this, I probably didn't love it as much as I do with my grandkids. And that's with them asking lots of questions and particularly asking why a lot. So as we grow older, as adults, as investors, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, professionals, we often stop asking questions. We stop inquiring. You said before, we kind of fall into our comfort zone. And I think in some ways we sort of fall into a place of resignation. And so as a result of that, we can often miss opportunities. We don't scratch the surface. We don't look at why something's happening or perhaps why something could happen. And the other thing is that we miss the opportunity to do something, to learn, to make mistakes. And if we miss the opportunity to learn from those mistakes, then we run the risk that we'll keep making the same mistakes over and again. And goodness me, I've been guilty of that over the years as well. So I think if you look at my grandson is 6 years old. His favorite question is why. But in lots of ways, what a great question to ask.
Well, it goes back to what I mentioned a while ago. It's because they're curious. Because at that age, they can't read, they can't look up Google, they can't find information elsewhere. So we should be asking why. And you've got to be careful who you're asking, though, because you may end up with the wrong answer. I think the other great thing I've learned from kids is that they show emotions. They've actually learned how to communicate, whether they're happy, whether they're miserable. We all know our kids' emotions. We can see what's going on. They sometimes communicate it verbally, sometimes it's just visually. Now, I know sometimes they take it too far. I know recently with my grandkids, some of them have had little temper tantrums because they haven't got their way, because they haven't learned how to deal with their emotions. But they communicate. They communicate with words. They communicate with feelings as well. But as humans, sometimes, as adults, sometimes we forget to communicate. We forget to show emotions to the people that matter. And it's not just your life partner, your spouse. It's also for people in business, in your team members, to show appreciation. Now, that doesn't mean you've got to have a temper tantrum out of frustration like a child does, but why not show a bit of empathy? Why not communicate regularly about how you feel and how you feel about others? That's actually going to allow them to understand you better and learn to trust you more, Mark.
Yeah, that's 100%. Mind you, Michael, I think you and I both know a couple of adults who still throw temper tantrums.
Yes. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about sharing, and not just with your life partner, but beyond that. I asked Isaiah who his family was, and I was interested in the response because it was more than mum and dad and his brother. He spoke about his cousins and his aunties and his uncles and his grandparents. it got me thinking in terms of business, as a business owner, as a professional in private practice. We kind of all have an extended family, don't we? I mean, it's our business partners, it's our associates, it's our team, suppliers, contractors, referral partners, alliances, all of those, and they all contribute to our success in one way or another. So if we consider them as part of the family, and therefore we consider them as part of the journey, it means that we can keep connected with them. And the more connected we remain, the more they're going to contribute to our ongoing success, Michael.
I think another point you learned from Izzy was that family is more important than money.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we spoke there about the importance of just making sure that you're focusing on the important things, and money does things for you, as we both know, and we've spoken about this lots of times. But there has to be a bigger purpose than just money.
Sure. Now, Mark, before we go on, because I've got a few more lessons I want to share, and I know you have as well, I think it's just worthwhile mentioning to people how our friendship has grown over the years. And many years ago, you became my business coach, and it's almost a decade now. And then you became business coach to my other directors at Metropole. And as the friendship grew, we started referring our clients to you, some of our clients at Metropole who are business people, entrepreneurs, investors, because you were already business coaches to some very, very successful entrepreneurs. And from that, having seen the successes they got, I thought, hey, I'd like to be part of it. And we formed a partnership that we call Business Accelerator Mastermind. It's a program for people who want to build a business, not a job. Now, before we share those other tips, I'd like to maybe give you the opportunity to just explain to people listening to this what your program does, how it helps them, and who it's for.
Michael, Business Accelerator Mastermind is what I call a hybrid program. So it's a business coaching program that has the benefit of one-on-one time with me and ongoing support with me, access to people in our faculty, and obviously access to you. But it also is a group program as well. So people have access to the other people in the mastermind group, and they get to learn from each other, they get to support each other. And the thing I love about Mastermind is we've got this sort of, leave your superhero cape at the door policy. So throughout the process, whilst people are in Mastermind, they get the opportunity to mix with other business people, but not with that superhero cape on. So it's massively supportive, and people share their wins, they share their losses, they share their successes, and they all learn from each other. So it's really for people who are already successful, already have a good business, but really do want to move the business to the next level because the business is so reliant on them. So you and I often talk in terms of level 1, 2, and 3 business. So it's moving to that point where you scale your business, it's successful, but it simply doesn't rely on you to the same extent that it does now.
So therefore, if you're wanting to build a business, not just a job, without killing yourself in the process, go to metropolemastermind.com.au, find out a bit about what Mark does, and if you're interested to see how it could suit you, just leave your details and have a one-on-one chat with Mark. You'll be happy to have a chat and see if there's some way you could help people. Would that be a fair comment, Mark?
I'd love to. It's why we do what we do.
Sure. So let's get back to some lessons we've learned from our grandchildren over the years. One of the lessons that I believe translates well to business people, entrepreneurs, and investors is that children don't stop learning. We've already said that they're curious, that they want to keep growing, they ask why, but there's a reason why they're doing that, because they want to learn. They don't look at learning the way we do. Instead, they learn through play, through interaction with other children. They don't feel intimidated by older children. They're inspired by them. They want to know what they do. They want to do what they do. They don't just give up if things don't work the first time. Instead, they keep going at it. They keep trying and trying until they master new skills. You know it yourself. They don't stand up and start running straight away. It takes more than a few goes at standing up, more than a few steps before they're able to get the confidence to move forward. So as with most things in life, all things take time. They take time to learn. Everything we do successfully or unsuccessfully is about learning. So as adults, we've got to learn not to worry about things so much. It takes a sense of curiosity and learning and experience to get your business to the next level. And at times like this, Mark, where The world is changing, and while there are some challenges, there are also some opportunities, some already and others coming as we work our way through the economic challenges that coronavirus is causing. There's some great opportunities there. You just got to look out for them.
Yes, you do. And in order to look out for them, you actually have to have your eyes open, your ears open, your mind open. And that's part of that, continuing to learn. We've spoken about kids being curious. And I love to think that if business owners can keep the curiosity up, keep the learning up, that's how they'll identify the opportunities. Michael, we spoke before about the importance of sharing and communicating, and you said, kids just to share, and it's something that we could learn as business people entrepreneurs is to learn to share with their team. And one of the things Isaiah said to me is that families don't keep secrets from each other. And I kind of love that, because by being brutally honest with your business family, you're far more likely to have them join you wholeheartedly on the journey. I mean, one of the things I often hear is people in business will say to me, "Oh, my staff just don't treat the business the way I do." My question then is, well, what are you sharing with them? What are you actually sharing with them? And by not keeping secrets, I think it shares the journey. They know where they're going. I mean, one of the analogies I always use is this: if I pull up outside your house in a car and said, "Pop in, jump in," one of the first questions you'd ask me is, "Where are we going?" Yet we do that in business on a daily basis. We have our staff come into the business. We don't tell them where we're going. So how can we expect them to get excited about the journey if they don't know what the journey is or what the destination is? So I think that the last thing about not keeping secrets, Michael, is that it's very powerful as a leader to show vulnerability, to share your vulnerability with your team, to still lead them out of that vulnerability, but showing that to them is going to increase your loyalty factor exponentially.
It makes you more human. It makes you more approachable, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Mark, I'm actually very impressed with your 6-year-old grandson and how worldly he is. What other lessons did you learn from him?
Well, Michael, he's come with these great little pieces of wisdom that sometimes seem, way beyond his years, but sometimes the little pearl of wisdom is actually bang on for his age, but is really relevant. And the next one he gave me was, it's really important to set time for fun. So I said to him, what should mum and dad do? And he said, well, they should play with me whenever I want to, or if they can't, then we need to have set times to play. So that's exactly what he's got an arrangement with his mum and dad, and they schedule time in the day for uninterrupted play. And that way, mum and dad know it happens, Iz knows it happens, nothing gets in the way. And I think it's like that in business. I mean, certainly we should schedule some time in our business to have fun. We should enjoy the journey. But I guess it's like anything, isn't it? If you don't schedule time for things to happen, there's a fair chance they won't happen. They'll get overlooked, they'll get overpassed.
Very much so. And similarly, when you're doing it, be there. So rather than when you play with your kids, don't look on the phone, don't check Twitter and Facebook on your phone while you're playing with them. Much the same with your staff. When somebody comes in and talks to you, look them in the eye, call them by name, pay attention, make them feel important, make them feel special. Because one of the things I'd learned over the while, just fitting in with the comment that you'd made a moment ago, is that kids need to take breaks. They need to re-energize. So yes, take time to have fun, take time to play, and also take time to rest, Mark. You need to relax. And at times as business people, there's just so many plates being juggled at the moment. And at the time of recording of this, and by the time I hope people listen to it, we're not going to be self-isolating and we're not going to be stuck, but juggling being a working mother, a working father, and having kids around you, sometimes it's just appropriate to take time out and enjoy the journey, which you were saying a moment ago. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy the destination when you get there, Mark.
No, you're not. And Michael, I always liken it to a bank account. It's like an emotional bank account. If you keep taking out of it and you never stop to put something back into it, you're going to go into overdraft, and that's not where you want to be. So I think it's really important just to take some time out, put the phone away, and be present, be in the moment. So whether it's playing with your kids, whether it's spending time with your team, whether it's listening to your team. Now, Michael, you and I both know that there are some team members that we work with that probably are a little more verbose than you and I would be, but we take the time because that's their style of communication. It's important that we give them the dedicated commitment and we listen to them because that's what they need. So I think it's a great lesson to learn as well, Michael.
And the last lesson, Mark, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I really like this one as a closing one. It's that I asked Isaiah what happens when he falls off his bike, and his answer was quite cute. He said, I get up, I get mum and dad to give me a hug, and then I get back on. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it's a great lesson to learn in business. You know, we're all going to fall over. In fact, you and I have discussed lots of times how failure is a really important component of success.
I'm a real success at failure.
Yeah, exactly. So when we do fall over, you know, we need to find a coping mechanism. We need to find a way to get up, dust ourselves off, get somebody to give us a hug if you can. Not that you can hug in the current coronavirus isolation situation, unfortunately, but give yourself a dust off and basically get back on the bike. And I guess the other thing that came from that was I then asked him, you know, how, when you're playing, for example, if you're climbing high on the monkey bars, or how do you know that you're going to be able to do that? How do you know that you're going to be able to ride your bike? How do you know that you're not going to fall off from the monkey bars? And his answer was, well, I just have to think positively and believe in myself. And
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, if we could close this discussion with one little gem, it would be that. I think it's think positively and believe in yourself. How valuable is that?
That is a fantastic lesson to finish off. So last month in our Build a Business, Not a Job podcast, we learned lessons from our animals, from dogs, about how to be a more successful adult. Today, we learned lessons from our grandchildren about how to be a more successful adult. I look forward to what you're going to bring to the party when we get together in a month's time, Mark. I've put you on the spot now, haven't I?
You have. I don't have a cat, Michael, but I might need to borrow your cat.
Okay. So again, if you're interested in learning the lessons, not from children or dogs, but from Australia's leading coach to business people, entrepreneurs and investors, if you'd like to have Mark as part of your team, like I have as part of my team, go to metropolmastermind.com.au. There'll be a link in the show notes. Find out about what Business Accelerator Mastermind does and how you could build a network, a tribe of other successful people around you. I think, Mark, that's one of the challenges business owners have got. It's the isolation, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be very lonely, Michael, in business, can't it? So that's one of the things I love about Mastermind is that tribe that exists as a result of it.
Thank you for your time, Mark, and catch up with you again real soon.
Always looking forward to it, Michael.
Well, Mark's grandson, Isaiah, is clearly a very wise boy for his age. And if you got some benefit from the advice of our grandchildren, why not tell somebody else who you think would benefit as well, whether they're a business owner or a professional, just even an investor, because we'd like to get this type of message to as many people as possible. I'm very excited as I've seen the growth of our podcast grow. In fact, the number of downloads we're getting every month has doubled over the last year. So tell somebody about it. Use the podcast share app in any podcast app, social media, whichever way you like. Or you can tell the world about it by leaving us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this. More importantly, though, if you got some benefit from Mark, why not have him on your side, on your team, helping you build your business or your professional practice? Go to metropolmastermind.com.au. There'll be a link in the show notes. And leave your details and have a chat with Mark. Why shouldn't you get the benefit of the same coach that I have and our team at Metropol has? I'll be back soon with my twice-a-week Michael Yardney podcast. In the meantime, you can catch up with me on social media. Just look for me at Michael Yardney. And I look forward to helping you grow, protect, pass on your wealth, become more successful, become more financially fluent. That's what this podcast is about. In the meantime, have a great week and make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropol, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favourite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?